Why is Prey 2017 so good? Starting with the story, setting, and characters is probably the easiest way to explain it, so beginning.
Good morning, Morgan. Today is Monday, March 15th, 2032.
You wake up in your apartment, ready for your first day of work. You waste no time in completing your morning routine of getting dressed, eating breakfast, and picking what gender you want to be in this progressive future of 2032. The future being so progressive as to hire a woman to be the handyman.
Morning, Mr. Yu. Quit messing around.
No time for talk, though. We have to misjudge a step so hard that the helicopter blade literally ends our life and playthrough. Getting back to it, we successfully embark on the best-sounding helicopter ride I have ever heard, thank you, McGordon, before getting to the TranStar building to get talked to by Alex. He tells me I have to complete some tests.
I know the test might seem a little unconventional, but...
Good morning, Morgan. I'm Dr. Bellamy.
But before you can say, push the fat man, Dr. Bellamy's mug turns into an alien, killing him, and more tragically, temporarily inconveniencing me. When you wake up, you discover that the handy woman really was underqualified for a job as she lay lifeless in the hallway. So I took the wrench back and decided now was a good time to inspect my glass for any structural imperfections. They'd been watching me. Every shit I took, every sexist handyman joke I made, they knew. So I tactically avoided the helicopter blades and ran into the first non-helicopter blade type enemy called the Mimics. These aliens can take on the appearance of inanimate objects and hide until they have the advantage. Not a big deal though, as our dead best friend Veer has our glue gun, which lets us slow down enemies or goo together stairways for easy vertical traversal. Don't really know why he died though, clearly he built some kind of staircase. Anyway, we find and collect our first neuromod, which are basically our skill points for the game.
Take a look.
After this, I exit the neuromod division, only to find that I've been in space all along. Oh, and it seems everybody is dead and the station's been taken over by the Typhon. This is where Prey really opens up and formally begins, I would say. Now is when you get to explore, now is when you get to find new weapons, now is when you get to pick your playstyle. The game thoroughly teaches you about all its mechanics with tutorials, and obviously you can combine different upgrades to complement their respective mechanics. Firstly, the setting of the game takes place entirely on the space station of Talos 1 and its immediate zero-G surrounding area. This is a good thing though, since there are lots of locations on the ship to explore, and it's fun floating around in space, especially with the speed booster. You can find hidden paths and vents all over the ship that make exploring a lot of fun. Sometimes there's a more direct path where you'll just need a key card or a code for a locked door. If you don't have either of those things, you can usually hack the door if you have a high enough hack skill. There's no shortage of ways to get around in Prey, and the propulsion system you find makes it so you can glide down from any height. Prey's weapons are fun to use and include a silence pistol, a meaty shotgun, a stun gun, a wrench, and a few more. The weapons all feel pretty good to use, and when you inevitably run out of ammo, you can use your psi powers that you get from the neuromods. Some of these powers include blasts of the kinetic, thermal, electric, and psycho variety. Then there's some even weirder ones like Phantom Genesis, Lift Field, or Remote Manipulation, which lets you use computer terminals or out-of-reach buttons. There's 94 abilities in the game, so I can safely say the game does let you pick your playstyle. The main story gets kind of weak after the opening section, but before getting real good again towards the end. But the best part of the game is the in-between, where you get to play with the physics, go on fetch quests, invade people's privacy, get addicted to recycling, and force the extinction of a whole species. So, unlike other Arcane games that are built with the Unreal or the Void engine, Prey uses the Cry engine, and it uses it to great effect. The game looks phenomenal, and there's a high level of detail and interactivity in all the parts of the environment. It runs good enough at 30 FPS, even on my PS5, but I do wish it had a patch for 60 FPS, since that seems to be the only thing holding back what is otherwise a smooth, fluid experience. I didn't experience any bugs in any of my playthroughs, and the game never crashed on me. The visuals and art direction here are once again Arcane at the top of their game. They stated in interviews that they wanted Talos 1 to feel like what it would be like if Google bought a space station, and they definitely pulled it off. The places look incredibly classy where it needs to be, like the lobby, guest rooms, and cafeteria, but as you get further away from the public space, it gets colder and more Russian. That's not a jab at Russia. In the game universe, TranStar bought the ship from Russia. Everything in the game looks like part of the same theme and like it belongs there. They use some nice fancy effects to show fire, gas, electricity, and what type of buff an enemy has. Everything sounds fantastic as well, from the muffled gunshots in space to squishy heads exploding to the robotic voice of the operators. What can also not go unmentioned is Mick Gordon's soundtrack. All of the ambient and dynamic music in the game really sells the mysterious alien vibe of the game, and I do often have the menu music, or Everything Will Be Alright, stuck in my head. Overall, Prey is one of 2017's best games, right up there with Resident Evil 7 and a bunch of other huge titles I didn't play, like Breath of the Wild or Hollow Knight. It has so many human and Typhon abilities that repeated playthroughs are tons of fun just to experiment with different skills, make different choices, or become OPAF in New Game Plus. And if you somehow do get bored, you can move on to one of the best DLCs I've ever played, Prey Mooncrash. Mooncrash is a roguelite version of Prey, which instead of playing as Morgan, you get to play as 5 different characters in a simulation with the goal of getting all 5 off the Pythias moonbase. It's set up in a way that each run is persistent, so if you pick the volunteer first and take the wrench from the first corpse you see, that corpse will not have a wrench for the second character to loot. Things you do persist through runs, so you can strategically open all the doors with your first character, but then if you need to unlock a door you missed with your 5th character, you will need to find a different way in since they all have different skills. Also, the level itself can change between runs or when the corruption level gets higher. Changes that can drastically alter your plans too, like you might be ready to read an email, but the power to the computer terminal's out, so then you have to make a detour to go turn the power on, but in doing so, the electricity then spreads through the flooded water on the floor, creating another hazard you must navigate. Little inconvenient instances happen like this all the time though in Mooncrash, and it makes you feel incredibly smart to be able to think on your feet with a timer counting down and aliens blasting you. The main game of Prey should take the quick player between 10 to 20 hours, but you can easily sink 30 to 40 into a slower playthrough where you thoroughly explore everywhere and read everything. It may not be as fluid as Dishonored, it may not be as fast-paced as Deathloop, it may not even have a devastating kick, but what Prey does do, it does masterfully well, and I can only hope Arcane has some more bangers left in them.
I ain't never seen creatures like that. Where'd they get them? Bottom of the ocean or something?
Morgan, did you hesitate? At all? I'm sure he wasn't a good man, but could you have done otherwise, given the opportunity? The Typhon can only kill and destroy, but you're human. You have a choice.